Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me. I have an amazing guest today. I can't wait for you to hear her story. And she has an incredible opportunity, a fundraiser for you to get involved in. And you're going to want to get involved in this, trust me. But I wanted to tell you first this podcast is being brought to you by the superfood nutrition that I take every single day. I know and love. Ted and I take it. If you're looking for options for, snacks on the go, if you want to sleep better, if you want to have more energy, people are always asking me how I have so much energy. You can email wildlywell21 at gmail.com. It's wildlywell21 at gmail.com. And actually, our next 11-day shred is starting in just in 2 weeks. So email now, get in. You can do the 11-day shred with us, and you'll be healthier and leaner and sleep better and have more energy by Thanksgiving. Okay, so first, I wanted to tell you, or second, I wanted to tell you about Emily Rachal. She and I have become friends virtually. We've never actually met in person, but we share something in common that has devastated both of our lives. And this is why I said you're going to want to do what she's the fundraiser, that you're going to want to get involved in her fundraiser, because it is, I can't wait for you to hear her story. It's just heartbreaking. So Emily, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Shemaine, so much for having me on at the last second. I
You
appreciate
know,
it.
we're texting, hey, let's do a live. So tell everybody your story and why we're here talking about this today.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'll try to summarize it real fast, but my family moved into a home that was very toxic, unbeknownst to us, and that just devastated our life. For 13 months, we were being poisoned. After we got out, it continued to obviously devastate us. Our son, Sebastian, regressed into severe autism due to all the neurological issues mold caused him to develop, as well as sensory problems. And we also lost our second son, Malachi, um, due to the fact that mold hinders your cells from absorbing nutrients. And so during our pregnancy with Malachi, it had caused me not to absorb what he needed, which was folate. So he developed a terminal birth defect called anencephaly, which we lost him at 35 weeks too. But you know, thanks to God, our journey didn't end there. We have gotten into the industry of mold. We've become big advocates. And me, in addition to Elizabeth Kripe and Tiffany Parrott, we put together a nonprofit foundation in my son's honor called Malachis Message. And you can go to it at www.malachismessage.org. It is strictly set up for to financially assist those that are going through mold, because Shemaine, everything costs so much money when you're sick with mold. You find out that health insurance doesn't cover it. You find out that your home insurance doesn't really cover anything. So people need that assistance in order to go see the doctors they need, get the treatment they need, remediate their house, do inspections, get out of their house for temporary housing. And so this foundation is strictly set up for anybody that is going through mold that needs that financial assistance to get themselves better faster.
Well, God bless you, and thank you for what you're doing. And I can't even imagine how you and your husband Josh have been dealing with this devastating loss of your son. And I'm so glad. I mean, it's true. I've written about it before, that when you do charity work, and especially in the name of someone's, obviously, that has meant so much to you, it kind of helps the everyday problems fade away, and you put all of your energy and information into that. And now what you're doing is an incredible opportunity for people to get involved, because you're right. This is the number one problem. I get questions all the time on DMs and emails that people are dying. They don't know what to do. They can't afford to move out of their apartment, their home. They've dumped so much money into it. And for those of you who don't know, I'll tell you my story really quick. My home that was once featured on MTV Cribs was contaminated with toxic mold between the walls. you don't see anything, right, Emily? You don't
Nope.
see anything. We never saw anything. We just kept getting sicker and sicker. And this was back in the year 2001. So I didn't have a predecessor to tell me what to do. And that's how you and I connected. We're on the same path. We want to help people. And because we've gone through it ourselves, we know how devastating this is. And I lost my whole home. It's gone. That home, if you ever Google Ted Nugent MTV Cribs home, it's gone. Not only that, we lost everything, all of the contents in it. And then on top of that, we got sick.
Yep.
So, what you're doing by providing an opportunity, another out, and helping to raise money so desperately needed for people who need to move out of their homes and just feel better is amazing. So, thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's our passion, just like you. We just want to get people out of this situation better, faster. And sorry, you might hear Malachi became a big brother last April. So our little daughter Jocelyn's here being very good right now.
Aw. So I'm going to start posting some questions. And Jolene says, I believe toxic mold set off my rheumatoid disease. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Mold is the trigger. We are all born with certain genetic, or predisposed to certain genetic stuff, and mold is that trigger for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It can do so many things. One thing that my husband and we actually got into the mold industry in Shemaine. The stories I have heard every day for the last 5.5 years of people that we go in and we do inspections for. I mean, for example, like one of our clients had healthy pregnancies, and then all of a sudden they moved into this toxic home, brand new home too. She had 11 miscarriages. 11. Got out of the toxic home and had a normal pregnancy.
That's so sad.
Mold can do so many things that unfortunately a lot of people just like me before I experienced it firsthand, we don't know about because we weren't educated about it. And mainstream medical doctors weren't educated about it either. And so you go to them thinking that they're going to be able to help you and they can't figure it out and you stay sick. And then you realize there's another type of medicine out there, functional medicine, and they actually look at the root cause. And those are the doctors that can treat you and test you for environmental factors.
And I've got another question here. Lori says, I believe we have mold in our home, but my husband trusts the inspector who says there is none.
I get this a lot.
We're laughing, but it's not funny.
It's not funny.
It happens more often. It happens all the time.
Let me guess, that inspector probably did air samples. And he's basing the entire environment that you're in on the analytical results that those air samples showed, which they probably didn't show in elevation because air samples are the worst samples to do in the industry. And here's why. Because during those 2 to 5 minutes that the inspector's drawing air into that cassette, if the mold spores aren't airborne at that time and around that little cylinder tube to be captured, then it's not going to show a problem. And there's a good chance that if it does capture something, it's not going to be elevated indoors compared to the outdoor samples. So inspectors will generally say everything's fine because the air sample came back fine, which is not. The most critical part is the actual inspection, where the inspector goes in and actually finds out if you have mold growth. And then second, what's causing it. Sampling comes last after that.
You and I are working on a few big projects and also the release of my documentary. We're putting together a one-stop shop where everybody can go for all the information because there are so many questions. How do people find a good mold inspector in their area? Because the problem is, when you go to building school or even if you're a contractor in the state of Texas, you don't have to have a license. So it's kind of crazy. They end up using people and resources that are less expensive than most. And so, how do you find a good mold remediator or inspector?
Oh goodness. Well, first off, if that inspector doesn't think that mold can really harm you, keep looking. If that inspector only relies on air samples and they just want to come in and do air samples, keep looking. What I usually tell people, because I talk to people and all over the country, because they want to find a good mold inspector, is I tell them to go call the attorneys that handle mold cases and find out who they
Mm,
use.
that's a great idea.
Because the attorneys rely on that inspector, and if they're wrong, then that whole case will fall apart. So whoever the inspector is that the attorneys use to go in to build cases, such as like our company in Texas, those are going to be the inspectors that actually know what they're doing, and they are going to be thorough, and they're going to find your problem.
And because this has happened to us, people will do, inspectors will, or mold remediators will do an air sample test, but go in and out of the house, open and close the door. Well, we know there is mold in the air outside. So you're not getting a realistic imprint, so to speak, of what mold you're dealing with.
Well, not only that, Shemaine, here's one thing that people don't realize is that, let's say that the outdoor sample showed aspergillus at 200 spores outdoors, and indoors it showed aspergillus at, let's just say, call it 200. How do you know that those are the same species?
Right.
That sample just shows the genus. So outside it could have been Aspergillus flavus, where inside is Aspergillus niger at 200.
Now, talk a little bit about the deadly, just a few, the top deadly types of mold.
Oh, well, Stachybotrys obviously is huge. Chitomium is huge. Fusarium, as well as there's several different species of Aspergillus, like Aspergillus niger and Aspergillus fumigatus, Aspergillus flavus. Those are some of the top 3 most studied species because of their potency. They're very toxic. They're level 1 carcinogens. So there's a lot of different toxic molds, and usually whenever you have them growing in your house, you don't just have one. There's usually multiple ones in your home.
So let's talk a little bit about, Rhonda says those inspections will show moisture and water problems. Not all mold is caused from just water damage. It could be moisture buildup, which is what happened to us recently in our home in Michigan. That there was moisture, there wasn't good ventilation. If you've got, let's say, humidity, and you've got a lack of ventilation, and you've got a porous substance like sheetrock or drywall, depending on where you are in the country, what they call it, you will have mold if you don't have good ventilation.
That's correct. You're absolutely correct. And another top source is air infiltration from the outside coming in.
Air, like damp air? Water?
Just like your outside unfiltered humid air coming inside your house somehow, somewhere. Usually it's somewhere in the attic, and then it goes into your wall cavities, and then it creates a dew point in your wall cavities, and then all of a sudden you have mold growing through your walls.
Yeah, it's such a heartbreaker because my mission is to get people healthier. And if you don't know what you're dealing with, if you just take medication to cover symptoms, you don't get to the root cause of what's really going on. But if you don't know the root cause, for us, my situation with our home that was on MTV Cribs, we never saw anything.
Mm-hmm.
But we kept getting sicker and sicker, and no doctor could pinpoint the problem. I had devastating, debilitating migraines where I was popping migraine medication like they were M&Ms. And one of the symptoms, the side effects, if you open up that little pamphlet, one of the side effects was death.
Yep.
So it's like you're playing Russian roulette all the time, just trying to feel better.
My doctor gave me birth control thinking that was going to resolve all my issues. And I'm not somebody who takes medication. I don't even take Advil. And I looked at the side effects too, and I was just like, this is not going to help me. Like this, there's more to it than this. I mean, I was losing my eyesight, and like you, debilitating headaches, hair loss, tons of acne. Like I was 13. Couldn't, fatigue, joint pain, heart palpitations, static shocks, you name it. I literally thought I was dying just before we found out our answer. And thank God we did.
Dawn Hobbs had just asked, what are symptoms of mold in the U.S.? It doesn't matter if you're in a tropical climate or if you're in a dry climate. We're talking about the air inside your home. Sure, you have a better chance of getting more humidity inside your home if you keep the doors open and you're in Florida versus Arizona. But what Emily was just talking about, the symptoms, how long do you want us to keep listing them? I mean, it could, what are your top symptoms that you recognize?
Okay, so for females, this is the top symptoms. And I talk to, for the last 5.5 years, I go over symptoms with everybody I talk with. So I have a lot of people that I can go off of, including myself, personal experience. But for females, mold likes to affect the hormones. And so some of the first things you'll see is thyroid issues, menstrual cycle changes, hair loss, development of anxiety or an increase in anxiety if you had it before, fatigue, headaches, and then GI issues because it likes to destroy your gut. So you'll have like IBS like symptoms and stuff. But those are some of the, I would say, first symptoms that I think females develop. But I mean, the list goes on and it really depends on who's being affected, their exposure level, what they're being exposed to, and their genetic susceptibility when they went into that environment. But for females, I find that a lot of them develop hormone different type issues.
And I know that, just touching briefly on, we're all genetically predisposed to certain things. And I know from the research that I did that male testosterone helps protect the men a little bit more than it does the women. So, okay. So Kathy asked, other than the air test, how do they find the mold?
Well, they have to be doing a thorough inspection. So they have to have, first off, not just cheap tools that they're using, like the $200 moisture meter. They have to have the very good quality tools, a very good moisture meter, infrared gun. We have smoke machines also that helps us locate air infiltration issues. They have to also be educated on building materials.
Yeah.
I mean, we can walk in and say, well, that's cementatious grout that you have in your bathroom. So that's porous. This house is 5 years old. That means every time you've turned on the shower, you've had water infiltrating that grout. You're going to have mold right there in that shower. And 98% of the time, there is a bad mold problem at every single shower because of that grout. So it has a lot to do with the education, the training, and then, of course, the tools that they're using, and just the fact that they're actually going to go in and do, first off, the assessment to begin with, because most inspectors just like to walk in and do air samples and leave. And that's not doing an inspection. That's doing testing.
So if you were to call in Albuquerque, wherever, what do you look for in a mold tester? What are the tests that you ask them to do? Like, can you name the top 3
Sure.
tests?
So once they do the assessment, first off, they have to do the assessment. And let's say that they find mold in the family room wall. Well, the better sample to do is a wall cavity sample versus an air sample, because you're going to have a better chance of actually capturing the mold from that cavity if you just stick the tube in the cavity and draw the air into the cassette. If they see visible mold growth and they can reach it, the better sample to take is a swab sample or a tape lift versus an air sample. We like to do vacuum samples too of contents, just to show them how contaminated their mattress or their sofa is, so that there's really no doubt of if they should leave it or if they should take it.
No.
But those are the better samples. We also have wipe samples too, and I know a lot of people have heard about the ERMI, and I think the ERMI is a great sample to do, but we have our own wipe samples that are patented that we use for our litigation cases. That test for mycotoxins, as well as it tests for a lot more species than the ERMI. But the ERMI is a very good sample because it collects the dust around your house. And when mold spores are put out in the air, they have to settle. So you really have a great chance of figuring out what you've been breathing in just by doing an ERMI.
One of the things that I realized when I was getting sick and almost dying from toxic and mold is that, and one of the reasons we left the home, our beautiful, beloved dream home, with all of the contents, even we walked out, but then got rid of the clothes that we were wearing because one mold spore is 1/100th the size of human hair. And its natural defense mechanism is to propagate 1,000,000 times like a dead dandelion. So I think is our time coming to an end?
No, she was just trying to get my attention.
Oh, okay. We were like, how long do we have? Well, it just depends on how long the baby. So let me ask you one more question. Actually, there's a bunch. This one is devastating. Donna says, there is mold on my bedroom closet wall. I can see it. My husband is planning on fixing it. I have high anxiety issues and depression going in that room. Your thoughts?
I hope he doesn't plan on fixing it himself unless he knows how to properly remediate it as well as protect himself and the remaining parts of his home. Because if he doesn't have containment set up, negative air pressure, and everything that goes involved in making sure that cross contamination doesn't occur, as well as potentially exposing you or anybody else in that home to a higher concentration of mold spores or mycotoxins when he goes to fix it, then I would recommend leaving the house and setting up containment, learning how to do it first, but more importantly, just finding somebody who can do it properly, who's not going to potentially cross-contaminate or cause a bigger issue.
People don't realize that when you and I say, get out of the house. In fact, I went to a toxicologist. Ted and I had 4 different types of mold in our bloodstream. And so the toxicologist whipped out his little, pad, and he starts writing something down. I'm thinking, oh, great, another medication. But what he wrote down was, get out of the house. You get to the point where you're so sick. And I remember I couldn't even pick up a glass to drink water. I had zero energy. I was, and I also was diagnosed with having pre-emphysema. So you will get to that point. Hopefully you listen to Emily and I and other people there's so many other people who are talking about this, and we're going to have more information available to you very, very soon. But any last thoughts? And can you tell us a little bit more about what the fundraiser that you're doing on Malachis Message?
Yes. Okay. So Malachis Message, first off, it's the first nonprofit set up for people going through mold. There is a special place in everybody's heart for anybody who serves in the military. And I don't know if everybody knows, but a lot of the military families are actually dealing with unsafe homes. And these are usually younger families, one income, and they can't afford to get the most important piece of the puzzle, which is my home safe for my family? And I put up some of the information, some of the quotes from different news articles on my Instagram account on Texas Mold Inspectors. But for example, one of them, there were 3 infants from 3 different families that lived in the same home. So one family lived there, an infant died. Another family moved in, their infant died. Then another family moved in, and then their infant died. So obviously the one common factor there is the home, but it's not just military homes in Texas, but it's kind of across the board. It's a big deal. And we wanted to help raise funds for them to get the most critical answer, which is their home safe for them to live in? They're not just dealing with mold, but also asbestos and sewage problems. And so we're holding a fundraiser. It's happening on Veterans Weekend. We decided to do a virtual walk or run because we didn't want it to get closed down in case of COVID. So you can go to malachismessage.org and you can register today to do a virtual 5K. You can do it on your treadmill or don't walk or run at all. You just get a really cool shirt that shows that you supported military families. And then we're also doing, for anybody who is in the Texas area, a poker run. There'll be a $500 gift card to Harley Davidson for the winner. It's going to start on November 14th at 9:30 at the Hearts Museum in Huntsville. It will end at the IBEW. And so that's going to be a really fun event. I don't know if anybody's ever done a poker run, but it's really cool and it's going to be really fun. And then we're going to have a bounce house at the end and some other fun stuff too going on.
Wow, it sounds amazing. I am definitely going to do that walk. So thank you so much. And I hope everybody goes to malachismessage.org. That's malachismessage.org. And you know what? Don't make a donation, $1, $5, $10, whatever you can afford. What you're doing, you, Emily, and your husband, Josh, is amazing. You're helping other people get out of their homes, which is what is needed when they're feeling sick. And a lot of people really don't have means to do that, and really understand what a dilemma it is that they are been put into that situation, and their house is what's killing them.
Yeah.
So sad. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to talk. I'm sure we'll talk about 10 more times today on the phone. So, or at least texting. All right. Well, Everybody have a great day. Make it a great day. Do something healthy and happy for you today. Don't forget, check out malachismessage.org. I'll talk to you again soon. And don't forget, we've got our 11-day shred coming up. You can email wildlywell21@gmail.com, wildlywell21@gmail.com to get in on that 11-day shred.
One question.
Yes.
One more thing. Shemaine, I meant to tell you this because everybody
I didn't know if
asked,
you were doing this for me or for one of your kids in the background.
I don't think I told you this, but the program that you're doing, the nutritional supplements that you're using, that was a huge part in getting my son better. And a lot of people always ask me, what did I do to get my son Sebastian go from being diagnosed as severely autistic to not autistic at all. That nutritional stuff that she's doing, that was part of our program. And it was one of the only things that he would actually eat. He
That's
loved the
awesome.
strawberry shakes and the chocolate shakes. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I realized it was what we did, and I saw that when you held that up. So
well, good. That makes me
Amazing
even happier that I put you on the spot today to come do this live. All right, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Don't forget Sunday setup, 5:00 Eastern every Sunday. I hope to see you here. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.